Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Vijay and I am a Microsoft MVP specialized in SharePoint. In this video, we will discuss about SharePoint Create folder. We will see how we can create folder in list libraries, how we can enable a SharePoint folder creation option, as well as I will show you how we can create folder using REST API. So now these are the things basically we'll discuss on this. What is the use of folders first of all in SharePoint, and then how we can create folder in list, and then we will discuss is that for all the list we can create folders. Then we will see how we can create a folder in SharePoint library. The important thing we'll discuss here is SharePoint folder or metadata. That's a topic that we should know whether nowadays we should go for creating folders or metadata, and then how many folders that we can create actually in a SharePoint library or a list, and how we can create folder in SharePoint site pages document library, and then finally I will show you how we can create folder in a REST API. Now first of all, what is the use of folders? Why we required folders in a SharePoint site? Now basically as you know, we can store documents inside a SharePoint document library. So if you have a picture library, you can store pictures on that. Similarly the information as well. So for example, you want to store your information about your permanent employees, about your contract employees. So these kind of things, data or the information and items or the files that we can store in a list or library. Now in that basically we can use folders to organize the data or the documents. The same way like we create folders in a desktop where we can create folders to organize the documents in our let's say in Windows C drive, D drive, somewhere you will see a lot of time we'll create folders, and we will add the required files into that folder. So SharePoint in the same way we can create folders to organize files in a document library or the items in a SharePoint list. Now imagine now let us say I have a SharePoint library where I want to store information about all the documents about trainings. For example, I'm providing training on SharePoint development, SharePoint site owner training, intakes, as well as SharePoint SPFX training, SharePoint framework training. Now I want to store these four kind of documents in a library. Now I have the option, I can put everything in one document library, and there it will be difficult to manage the documents, to find the document, because suppose some people wants to just see the site owner document, then they have to search over there, and it will be really difficult to know which one is the site owner document from there. Now that is one option, that you can put everything in one library. The other option is you can create different libraries for that. For example, I'll create a library for SharePoint development training, and then I'll put everything, every document related to SharePoint development training in that. Same way I can create 3 more libraries, and I can put SPFX documents into SPFX library, and then a site owner training into that library. So but the problem on this is it will be difficult to manage 4 lists now, because some people, let's say some people will enroll for multiple courses, then it will be difficult to manage that permission and stuff. The other option is that you can create a folder and you can create a library, and inside that you can create folders. For example, let me show you that. For example, this is my SharePoint Online site. You can see here this is a modern site, and on this I have a training documents library, and on that I have created 4 folders on this. One is for intakes, SharePoint development training, SharePoint site owner training, and SPFX trainings. Now I want to let's say I want to keep my in-text document, so I'll open this folder, and then with that I will upload all my in-text documents over there. Same way for other libraries on this. Now this is one way. That's the reason we actually create or we require folders on that. Now by default, when you will create a site, if you look at a library, whether it is a modern library or classic library. So if I'll exit this classic library, you can see here, I will be able to see this folder option over here. This is for a But if I will open any list, for example, there is an employees list. So if I'll open this employees list, If you'll see here, if I'll click on new, I will not be able to see the create folder option there. And same thing is for classic list as well. For example, if I will just return to classic here, you can see here now it will become a classic list. You can see here classic list, and if I will go to items here, you can see the new folder is disabled. Now you can able to enable this, and we can create a folder in SharePoint list as well. Only thing is that by default Microsoft has disabled it. So I'll go to the list settings page. So this is where you can go to the list settings page in a modern site, and then you'll go to advanced settings, and over there if you'll come to this section, there is a section called as folder, and in that you can see there is a make new folder command available. So by default it will be new, and we can actually click on yes, and then I'll click on OK. So now if I'll go back to the list, you can see here this folder, new folder option is coming now. It will come here, and I will say, let's say I will say folder 1, and I'll click on create. So it will create a folder here, you can see. And most importantly, even if I'll go to the classic mode now, so you can see here, let me just go to the classic mode. You can see here we are in the classic mode, and if I'll go to the items now, I have the option where it is saying new folder, and if I will say now folder 2 and click on save, so it will create another folder on this. So this is how we can do, or we can create a list in SharePoint, we can create a folder in SharePoint list. Now the other option is, can we actually create folder in all SharePoint list? The answer is no. For example, let's say this is a there are various templates are available on SharePoint to create list, like task list, calendar list, discussion, survey, and wiki. This kind of list, you will not have that option to create a folder on this. For example, if I will show you a task list here, so if I will go to team task, this is a task list, you can see, and if I'll actually go here, you cannot see a new folder here. Not only this thing, if I'll go to the list settings, this is how we can go to list settings page in classic SharePoint list, and if I'll go to the advanced setting, you will not see that option here. You will not see that folder option where you can enable or disable things. So that means you will not be able to do this thing on this kind of templates which is saying on this task, calendar, discussion, survey, or wiki. And then how we can create actually folders in library. Now if I will go to any library, so let's say I'll go to this documents library, you can see here I have option from the beginning that I can go to new folder, and I will click here folder 1. I'll provide the name and click on create, so it will create a folder over here. Even if I'll go to the classic mode, so if I will go to the classic mode, you can see here you have the file and new folder option, so you can, the same way you can create a folder over there. And another important thing that comes usually is whether we should create folders or we should go with metadata. Now the metadata, just to let you know, this is kind of a tagging that we do for a document. So in this case, now there are a couple of things on this when you will create a folder. Folders are basically the older ways where you can we usually create folders to manage the documents, but there are a lot of advantages that you can get if you are using metadata over folder. Now let us see the problem first of all. So normally if you are a Windows user, you will see the same folder experience what you are doing in a Windows machine or Windows Explorer. So you'll have folders, subfolders like this, and within that you have folders. But now imagine you are having some nested folders over there. You have the parent folder, then nested like this. Then it will be really difficult to find out the document for a, let's say you are searching for a document or you are trying to figure out what is the document. Then in that case it will be very difficult to find it out. And the second thing is there is a limitation on the URL characters. So that will be creating a problem. If you have a folder with big names, then your file name will be big like that. Then at some point of time you will see that the browser URL limit error will come. So that's the issue that we can avoid by using metadata rather than creating folders. So that's a big problem, because I have seen there will be 7 levels of nested folders will be there. People usually store documents over there, so that's not a good practice. Neither it will be user friendly for the users as well. And another disadvantages is that when you will create a folder, subfolder things, ultimately when at the beginning you will say, okay, this is my folder and I will only store my related documents over there. But at some point of time you will see that you are end up with duplicate documents, because you may never know at some point of time where you kept the document, and maybe it will be there in another document, because when you will work with multiple folders you will see similar kind of folders over there. So that will have the problem that at one point of time you will see that there are duplicate content over there. There's another major problem is that if you will, let's say you find a document and you say no, this is not the right place, it should be in other folder, and if you will actually move the document, then the URL will get changed, and that will create the problem when if someone, you have already shared the URL and they click on that, then they will end up with a 404 page. But on the other hand, there is the SharePoint metadata concept came, where you can like tag a document. So whatever your documents are there, rather than storing in different folders, so you can put it there, but you tag the document that this is for SharePoint development or SPFX training document like this, and it will be easier to find it. And you can actually use filter, group and sort documents by using your metadata column. And there will be no chance of any duplicate, because if you are trying to upload a same file with the same name to a library, then it will show that the file is already exist. So you have to eventually you have to go and change the metadata. And the document URL will be shorter, because you will not have folder, nested folder, nothing. You will have your library and then your file name. So your document, definitely the URL will be shorter. And then the number of time that you change the metadata. For example, today we say no, this document is suitable for SPFX training also. So it might be in those scenarios you can change the metadata, you can add metadata, but that will not have any impact on the URL, or it will not affect your business user experience at all. So the preference that if you are now trying to set up a library, then you should go for metadata. I will create a separate video on metadata, the advantages and how we can work with that. But for the timing being, I will share you a couple of URLs where you can actually check the difference between or using metadata and SharePoint folder. At the same time also, I'll put there's a concept known as SharePoint document sets. I'll put some URL in the video description. You can have a look at this. Apart from that also, I have written a blog post on this particular things, and I'll put the link in the video description, so you can have a look at this. Now next question comes is how many folders that you can create in a SharePoint library. See, there's a limit of having 30 million items in a list or library, and that includes your folders. So when actually you will create folders, that will include as an item or a file in a SharePoint list or library. So the question, how many folders, it depends. So if you have more files are there, then you obviously cannot create more folders, because ultimately for SharePoint it is just an item. Now there's one more thing is that if you will actually go to or open any site pages, for example, in this case, if I'll go to the pages library, you can see here this is the site pages, and when you will click on new button, you will not see your new folder option. Though it's a document library, but it is restricted like a list in SharePoint. By default, the new folder creation option is disabled here, but you can enable it. You can go to the library settings, same option, go to the advanced settings, and you can see this folder option, and if you'll say yes and click on OK, then this will be available on your site pages. So you can now if you'll go, you can see here new folder, and the same process, it will create the folder when you click on this. Now let us see how we can create a folder using a REST API in a SharePoint library. Now, if you have not gone through the REST API video, I have already published a couple of videos on REST API. Go through that. I'll put the link in the video description. You can have a look. And so here I will do what I'll do is we will create a similar kind of structure where there will be a folder name, so that user will enter the folder name here and then create folder. So I just create the folder. I have not checked whether if it exists, then it will not create, or it will show a message, something like that. But in this scenario, it will simply throw an error. So I have not checked that. Only thing is I have created it. So let me just show you that code. We'll go through the code and then we will use it. So in this particular case, if you'll see here, I have taken some HTML here, which will be a text box for taking the user input from the user, so that they can provide the folder name. The second thing is a button, which is a create folder button, and on click of that, it will create the folder in the document library. Now require the jQuery references. If you have not, you can check these things also in the video I have explained on REST API 1. So I am calling a bind button click method, which will actually, what it is doing is, it is binding the on click event to this button create. So and we are calling the create folder method. So on button click, this method will get called. So create folder, you can see here, this is our method, and we are retrieving the name of whatever the folder name that user entered from this text box. This is how we can retrieve by using in the jQuery. And then this is the site URL. So web absolute URL, site URL, and this is going to be our full URL. Since the REST endpoint will be /API/web/folders. And next what we will do is, this is a post operation. So you can see here the URL and the type. So the type is post here. And then JSON stringify, you can see here. So it will become a string, then underscore metadata, and type here sp.folder. So because we are creating a folder, and server relative URL, you can see I am providing the library name /folder name. So the folder name is whatever we are getting from the text input. And then the header, so request digest we required, so that the SharePoint will know that this request is coming from a valid SharePoint page. And on success, on failures, on the success, I am just showing a message here. So I will just copy this and I will go to any SharePoint page. So you can see here, this is a SharePoint web part page. You can see here, you cannot use this thing on the modern SharePoint site. So you have to use in a classic SharePoint site. I click on add a web part, and we will create we will insert a script editor web part here. So that is enough for running our code here. So you can see here, I will go to media and content. You can see script editor. I'll click on add. So now the script editor web part added. So I'll click on edit snippet. I'll put the code, click on insert, save the page. You can see here. So now I saved the page. So I'll just remove the query string parameter here. And suppose I'll give folder 1 here, create folder. You can see here SharePoint folder created successfully. And this is the library. So I'll just refresh here. You can see here the SharePoint folder got created. So this is how we can create a folder in SharePoint Online document library by using REST API. Now, if you like the videos, kindly subscribe to the channel and also press the bell icon so that you will get notified whenever I'll put any kind of videos on Office 365, SharePoint, Power Apps, Power BI, Flow, and SPFX. All these videos I'll publish. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you and have a nice day.